Hello everyone and welcome back to another Marvel Crisis Protocol Battle Report. And today for you we have a 17 threat match of Web Warriors featuring the new Amazing Spider-Man versus 17 threat of the Spider-Foes with one new miniature from their last showing. They'll hopefully do better against the Web Warriors than they did against the Black Order, but I guess we'll see. We can take a look at both the teams and then we'll get started. So here are the Web Warriors being led by the new big base 5 threat Amazing Spider-Man. Meant to show Spider-Man at his peak. He's got he's perfect spider sense, so he can reroll all defense dice and dodge dice. He's a pretty good brawler, he's got witty banter, and his affiliation bonus, which will be getting used because he is going to be the leader even though Miles is here, is that Web Warriors can spend 1 power to make an enemy within 2, I think, have the slow condition, or if they already have the slow condition, they can move them within 1. So it's a little bit more movement control, which might matter. I think on paper Miles' affiliation bonus is just flat out better. But he's new, so we're going to give Amazing Spider-Man a try. And then on that note, he is joined by Black Cat, Gwen, and then we have Luke Cage just helping out, I guess. And of course, Miles Morales. Their tactics cards are all webbed up Med Pack, Spider Tracker, Aunt May's Wheat Cakes, and the Cat and the Spider. So as mentioned, this is basically the same Spider-Foe list as last time with the addition of Kraven the Hunter for another 3-threat character. Being led by Green Goblin, Mysterio is here, the Lizard, and Carnage. Nothing much else to say about them, hopefully they'll have a better showing than last time. Kraven is pretty good though for a 3-threat. He can put on a lot of pressure and he can stop people running away. And he does extra bonus stuff against people with Wall Crawler, which, with the exception of Luke Cage, everybody on the other side has, I think. I think Black Cat has it. Their tactics cards, if we come down here, Sinister Traps, Carnage Rose, the Grand Illusion, Neogenic Recombinator, and Monkey Brain is Lizard Home. And here are 2 of the Crisis cards being played today. The 17th threat is from the Extraction, which is the Montesi formula found. There's 3 books on the battlefield, 1 victory point scored for each one held during the cleanup phase. You interact to pick them up. Can't hold more than 1, and if you have 1, you get access to a Beam 3 6 energy attack, which is really good. And then the other card being played, the Secure, was Terrigen Cloud. So there's 2 Terrigen Clouds on the map. If you are holding it, or for each one you're holding rather, you get 2 victory points. And the clouds also move at the end of the phase, in the cleanup phase, and poisons everyone within 1 of their position. And we can just take a look. 1 book, 2 book, 3 book, and then the 2 Terrigen Clouds are on the 2 far edges. Both sides are set up. The Web Warriors are on your left, the Spider-Foes are on the right, and it is the Spider-Foes who will be taking first activation. We can take a look at where everyone is in a second. However, much like last time, Sinister Traps is being played at the start of the game. I feel like this should have a power cost, like the person who plays it, or one person on your team can't take their power in the first power phase or something. But it's played during the first power phase. Choose an objective token. The first time a character ends a movement action within 2 of it, you roll 5 dice, they take 1 damage for each hit, crit, and wild. And if they suffer damage, they are pushed away from it. So that is being played on that book, of course. So we'll just leave that card there until it's inevitably picked up. But yeah, that's going to be a potential 5 damage to someone, and at no cost. So Kraven and Green Goblin are down here. The Lizard is over here. Carnage and Mysterio up there. And over here we have Luke Cage and Gwen next to each other. We have Amazing Spider-Man in the middle there. And then Black Cat and Miles up there on top of the building there. And Black Cat does not have Wall Crawler. I was wrong about that. So as is normal with games where the objectives are laid out like this, team that gets first turn has to grab the objective that makes the difference. So the Lizard activated, he double medium moved to the centre of the map, just so he was barely within 1, and paid 1 power to pick up the Montesi formula book that was there, and he's tried to make himself obscured by the rock there as much as possible. So the honorary member of the Web Warriors activated first, Luke Cage. He moved and he ended an action within 1 of the book that was there, so it triggered Sinister Traps. There's the roll, so there was 1 hit, 1 wild, which would be 2 damage, but he reduces damage received by enemy effects, which presumably the card counts as, down to 1 damage, and then he moved a little bit closer, but also using the rocks there to obscure himself from the other enemies who haven't activated yet. Leader of the Spider-Foes activated, Green Goblin. He moved up twice, just to secure his Terrigen Cloud over here. Worth mentioning, everybody on the Spider-Foes side, with the exception of Mysterio, all moved medium. Mysterio moves short. It's also worth mentioning that because Peter Parker is on the table, the arch nemesis rule for Green Goblin might apply, where if Peter is within 3, his first action must be to attack him, and he can reroll and modify skulls, and I think he gets full rerolls on the attack as well, so it's not a super negative. Miles activated and moved forwards twice and then clambered up the XXX bar in order to hold the Terrigen Cloud up there, and he has wall crawler, so he's not hindered by having to climb up onto the building there. Carnage activated next for the Spider-Foes and kind of did a V shape for his actions. Medium move to here to pick up the book that the lizard ignored so that he could grab the middle one, and then up that side to get him sort of towards the Terrigen Cloud, but obviously can't get there this turn. It's some more standard turn 1 movement. Gwen activated and double long moved in order to help Miles secure the Terrigen Cloud up there. Probably means they're both going to end up poisoned after this turn, but at least it will score 2 victory points. Speaking of securing victory points, Kraven just moved up behind Green Goblin and help secure their Terrigen Cloud, and that was the second last activation for them. It's just Mysterio to go, but it's over to either Black Cat or Spider-Man for the Web Warriors. Well, deciding she had nothing better to do, Black Cat moved, and she moves long, and she went straight for the jugular. She is charging down the lizard to help out Luke Cage next turn. It's worth mentioning Black Cat doesn't let you get crit results, I think it is, against her because of her bad luck roll, so she is a little bit defensive for a 3-threat character. Final Spider-Foe activation was Mysterio again. As mentioned earlier, he just moves small, so he floated to the base of the building and then floated up here, not close enough to contest the Terrigen Cloud, although even if he could, it's still 2 versus 1, but obviously bearing down on Gwen and Miles to attack them next time. So last up for Battle Round 1 was the Amazing Spider-Man. He moves long, and he did so to where you can see him there, and then he did his basic Spider Strike. Yeah, that's what it's called. Range 3, 5 physical. He did it on the lizard, and the lizard does reduce damage taken down to 1, or by 1 to a minimum of 1, and that's how it went down. The lizard took just 1 damage. He has healing factor, but obviously it's already activated, so it's not going to kick in this turn. And there was no, if it gets a crit and a wild, he gets momentum on it. Sadly, did not get that. So then Battle Round 1, everybody mostly just moved around, as is tradition for Battle Round 1 of this game for the most part. The Spider-Foes hold 2 of the Montesi Formula books for 1 victory point each, and they also hold 1 Terrigen Cloud for 2 victory points, taking them to 4. The Web Warriors hold 1 of the books and the other Terrigen Cloud over there on top of the bar, so they're sitting at 3. So as we go into Battle Round 2, it will be the Spider-Foes still having first activation, but in the cleanup phase as well, the clouds have been moved. Anyone within 1 then take 1 damage and are poisoned. So Kraven and Green Goblin, 1 damage poison. And also over here, Gwen and Miles, 1 damage and poison. And that's bad for everyone because their power generation is going to be neutered as we go into Battle Round 2. So it was Carnage who got Battle Round 2 started, and he was down there on the street, if you remember. He moved and got up onto the building. He's a wall crawler, so he can just go without hindrance. He couldn't use the book to catch both Gwen and Miles, so he settled for a symbiote tendrils on Miles. He got 2 damage through, and it bleeds as well. So Miles is on 2 health left, and yeah, he's very close. And just again, as a reminder, since I didn't specify specifically, at the end of the Battle Round 1, everyone who was poisoned loses 1 power in the power phase, so essentially negating their gain in the power phase. So Miles activated, fearing that he would be dazed for the first activation for the Web Warriors. But first, Aunt May's Wheat Cakes was played, so any number of Web Warriors can play this card. They pay 1 power to do so. Characters that did pay that remove 1 damage and slow. So Miles and Gwen both removed 1 damage for 1 power each. They didn't have slow, so it didn't matter. Then Miles just did he removed his bleed for his first actual action. And then for a second one, he just did a basic web swing on Mysterio. He paid his 2 power because that was all I had left, to force Mysterio to use his 1 physical defense die. The attack roll was bad though, so unfortunately just 1 damage through on the 6 health in total, I think, Mysterio. So we're staying up on the roof of the XXX Club because Mysterio activated, and his goal was to clear the roof, and he achieved it. He started with a hypnotic gas attack on Gwen. If it does damage, you can move them small. He did 3 damage to her and moved her off the building, so she's down there. He then spent 4 power on Curtain's Call, did that on Miles. Less good damage roll, but as long as it does any damage, he can throw small, so he threw him off the building. Down there for another 1 damage. Now he couldn't move on either of those things, so he isn't in range to be securing, but Carnage is, and at best Gwen could go up there and make it a draw. but she's also very close to death. Well, days. So Black Cat was next up for the Web Warriors. She did not move from her position. She spent 2 power on her quote-unquote best attack. It's called Troublemaker. It's not really meant for damage. It has the same role as Shuri's Panther Gauntlets. If it would do more than 1 damage, it does 1 damage. The important part though is that it inflicts stagger. So the lizard is only getting 1 action this turn. She then did her basic Cat's Claws, which is just 4 physical. That did okay actually because it has Pierce on it. So she pierced some of his defense. Would have done 3 damage, but gets reduced to 2 thanks to his lizard hide. So to try and make things a little harder for the Web Warriors, the lizard activated. His first action had to be to remove the stagger, which was a shame, because if he'd had 2 actions he could have moved over there and done a pretty tasty 3-target monkey brain his lizard home. But because he's holding a book, he used his 1 action after clearing the stagger to flee in this general direction to his teammates. So the Amazing Spider-Man activated, and he had a busy turn, so we've got a lot to cover. He spent 2 or 3 on Webline, which is just a place within 3, and then he adds 2 to his next Spider Strike, putting it up at 7 dice. He used it on the lizard, 3 damage down to 2, which was not enough to daze the lizard at that point, because I forgot to mention he has healing factor 1, so when he finished his turn he healed 1 damage. Had he not healed, that would have been enough. So then, the Cat and the Spider was played. Peter Parker, as long as he's within 2 of Ally Black Cat, and he stopped in such a way that he definitely was, they each spend 1 power. He chucks Black Cat medium, she doesn't suffer damage from the collision, and then after the throw is resolved, she can immediately interact with any number of objective tokens without spending power. So, Spider-Man hawked Black Cat at the lizard. It did only 1 damage, but that was exactly enough to daze him, and then she automatically picked up the book he dropped, because she can interact for free. Now, he did have another action left, because he weblined, he didn't move for his first action, but Kraven isn't in range, they both have cover anyway. Green Goblin is definitely attacking him for at least 1 action, so he didn't want to feed him power, so he just banked his other action and decided to do nothing with it. So crazy old Norman Osborn activated, and because of his arch nemesis role, his first action had to be an attack against Peter because he was within 3. He gets to do full rerolls, including skulls, and it did nothing. But he wasn't given cover because they're both close to the same scenery element. He did another one, and that did much better. Well, I guess, kind of. It did 1 damage, and it was a wild, so he was able to put Incinerate on him, which brings down Peter's fairly hefty 4-4 for physical and energy defense. He still has the perfect Spider Sense, though, for full rerolls against dodges and defense. Luke Cage, aka Power Man, activated. He moved forwards medium and then used the Montesi formula book in his possession to fire the Beam 3. It only caught Green Goblin, but that was better than going against his 4 physical defense, at least in theory, but he fully blocked the damage. It was a terrible attack roll, there was only 1 success. Kraven the Hunter was the final activation for the Spider-Foes this turn. He shifted slightly, he's still holding the Terrigen Cloud, but that was to give him range 3. On Luke Cage, he did a spear throw. It gets extra dice added if he's already attacked a target this turn, so nothing this turn, it's just 4 physical against 4 physical defense. And Luke Cage was unharmed. So now it's over to Gwen to end off Battle Round 2 proper. So Gwen decided she was not running away, she's no coward. She jumped up onto the building to contest with Carnage, and we can come around here a little bit. She spent her 3 power on Freestyle Beatdown, couldn't lower Mysterio's defense, so he was rolling 5 mystic defense against a physical attack. But she still did really well with it, it did 4, and because she dealt damage she's allowed to throw him small. So she chucked him into Carnage, which did the 1 extra damage required that he is dazed. Now Carnage has 5 physical defense, so he easily dodged Mysterio's flailing body. But that does get a daze on Mysterio, he's banking a lot of power now. And that does mean that she's at a stalemate with Carnage for who's controlling that Terrigen Cloud. And with that we are into cleanup for Battle Round 2. So then in Battle Round 2 the Web Warriors have definitely started dominating combat. They managed to take the majority of the Montesi formula books. They have 2 out of the 3 for 2 victory points. Unfortunately that's all the points they actually gained that turn, because the Spider-Foes are still holding this Terrigen Cloud down here. They're both poisoned still, so it doesn't matter. Oh, actually I believe the damage would still proc even though they're poisoned, so it does matter. They'll both have 1 more damage on them, Green Goblin and Kraven. And 1 other book is in Carnage's possession for 1 victory point, plus holding that Terrigen Cloud for 2, so they actually gain 3. As said, it's a stalemate up there between Carnage and Gwen. They also both took 1 more damage, and Carnage will be poisoned because Gwen already was. And with that, we'll jump into Battle Round 3 with the Spider-Foes still maintaining priority. So Battle Round 3 got started with the Lizard taking the best use of his power he could manage, and starting with Monkey Brain is Lizard Home, so it gives him access to the area 2 5 physical. It's only 5 physical, but he actually did really well with it. Costs him 3 to play it, and he gets the attack above, and if it's well, actually it doesn't even need to do damage. If it's once it's resolved, you just push the targets away small. So he did it on Amazing Spider-Man, pushed him away. It did 4 damage to him. He was rolling 1 less defense die because he's incinerated, but still, the perfected spider sense should have been better than that. But yeah, he got pushed away small. Black Cat took 3, couldn't get pushed away because of the lamp or the traffic light there. And then afterwards he spent 3 on his Cold-Blooded Killer, whatever his best attack is, Cold-Blooded, which did another 4, which is much more than was required. Dazed Black Cat, she's not getting an activation, and she dropped the book, so he picked it up for 1 power and then took his stolen book back. But he did both attack actions, so he can't move, so he's still up there on top of the car. The Amazing Spider-Man activated, and he web swung for a free move for 3 power over to roughly there. He then did a basic strike, his spider strike with 2 extra dice because he web swung, into Kraven the Hunter. He only got 2 damage through. Kraven has 1 reroll on attacks and defense thanks to whatever vapors he's high on. And he also, in the roll, got a wild and a crit, which let him use momentum, so he gets placed within 1 of an enemy character within 2 of his original target, in this case Green Goblin. And then you treat it as if he'd been thrown into him. Green Goblin's got 4 physical defense though and took nothing from it. And then for Spider-Man's actual other action, he tried to do another Spider Strike, just down to 5 dice this time, presumably because I think the bonus from Web Swing only applies once. And that one was a rubbish roll, so it did no damage to him. But he did get moved right next to the Terrigen Cloud, which might make a difference. Oh, sorry, and I forgot, he also paid 2 power, to heal himself for 3 with Medkit. Medpack, the name of it is right there. So Kraven the Hunter activated because he's only 1 health away from being dazed, so he wants to actually do stuff with his power. He did corner the beast on Luke Cage, so if Luke Cage moves during his activation he's going to suffer 1 damage now. And if he had Wall Crawler it would have not worked, but he doesn't. Then he did a Kukri Strike on Amazing Spider-Man. It didn't do any damage but still bleeds. And then he did a Spear Thrust, normally just 4 physical, but because he did a Kukri Strike first it adds 3 dice on. His roll was fantastic. 3 defense dice with a full reroll did nothing, so Spider-Man took 6 damage, making using that med pack irrelevant because he just got dazed. So Luke Cage activated and he made use of his Montesi Formula book, which caught Green Goblin and Kraven the Hunter. It did 4 damage to Green Goblin, 2 to Kraven, just needed to do 1 to him, so he is dazed. It left Green Goblin on 1, so he moved up, and that does mean he's taken 1 damage thanks to the Corner of the Beast. He paid 2 power for Street Fire to pick up the size 2 rock there, chuck it into Green Goblin to try and do the 1 damage to stop him getting a turn. 4 physical defense, and he dodged it entirely. He rolled 3 shields. So Green Goblin is still going to get a turn, but Kraven did get dazed. So Green Goblin activated and started with Neogenic Recombinator. Got to parse that before trying to say it every time. So 2 allied Spider-Foes within 3 of each other can spend this. 1 takes 3 damage and removes it from the other. Lizard gracefully took 3 damage, so it's off of Green Goblin because on his flip side his insanity is going to be hard to manage with holding objectives. So he did that so that he's got a bit more oomph. He then spent for Night of the Goblin on Luke Cage. It only did 1 damage with no special effects put through, so then he did his basic pumpkin bombs. Sorry, it did 2 down to 1 because of Luke Cage's roll, and again pumpkin bombs also did 2 damage down to 1 because of his invulnerable skin. Gwen Stacy activated, she was up there on the building, but staring down Carnage and Mysterio, who still have to activate, was no picnic when she's only got 1 health left. So she double long moved and is instead going to try and contribute to this fight over here, which I think they have a better chance of winning next turn. Mysterio hovered forward small just so that he could then see and use 4 power to use Curtain Call on Miles. The attack roll had 1 success in it, which was easily blocked. Didn't even need Spider Sense, not that you could use it because you can't use it against Mystic attacks. So Miles is going to be the last activation for Web Warriors, and then it's back over to Carnage. So we can actually cover both final activations for Battle Round 3. Miles is choosing to run away. He double medium moved this way. If they can take control of this area and all the books in it, there'll be a 5-point swing a turn versus a 3-point swing up on the triple X bar, which is really their only hope at this point. And Carnage, he's just repositioning slightly. He wants to hold that, and he's already poisoned anyway. So he's just doing that, and that is going to take us to the end of Battle Round 3. So that was a pretty abysmal round for the Web Warriors, and the only scoring they got was the 1 book that Luke Cage is still holding on to. So they gained 1 victory point, which put them at 6. The Spider-Foes are holding both Terrigen Clouds for 4 and 2 books for 2, putting them at 13. So if they score 3 in the next turn, they just win, which actually means that they have, as long as those two stay over there, because neither of them are going to get dazed from the poison they're going to take from the Terrigen Cloud. Green Goblin's going to take 1 damage plus, he's already poisoned, but basically they can't be stopped now, unfortunately. We're still going to play out Battle Round 4, but it's not possible to stop the Spider-Foes at this point, I think. With that though, we are going to jump into Battle Round 4, and it is the Web Warriors who finally get first activation. So the Amazing Spider-Man was first activating Battle Round 4, going for that Pyrrhic loss, I guess, because it'll be a Pyrrhic victory for the Spider-Foes if they are mostly off the table or dazed. He started his turn by playing All Webbed Up, so that costs 3, and then enemies within 3 of him suffer slow, and Web Warriors attacking anyone who are suffering from slow this round, which is an interesting wording when you count his affiliation bonus, because it doesn't say slow as a result of this card. They just have to be suffering slow. Either way, Web Warriors add 2 dice to their attack rolls. So that's what happened. He then did his best attack, which is whatever a spider can, 8 physical dice just to guarantee the knockout on Green Goblin. He did 5 damage in the end. Green Goblin was slowed, but the stats effects have been removed to clear up things a little bit. Then he did his basic strike, again with the all webbed up bonus, on Craven the Hunter. Did 4 to him. Craven's still standing though, and he didn't move, and he's still holding the Terrigen Cloud. It's still a draw though, because he and Craven are both on their day's side. So not long for this world, Craven the Hunter activated. First he cornered the beast on Luke Cage to stop him moving in the Terrigen Cloud, although with hindsight it was actually pointless because he got a really good roll on his Kukri strike, which did 3 damage down to 2 and was enough to daze him. He then paid 1 to pick up the book he was holding, and fled small because he's slowed over here, just so that anyone who comes after him also would not be within 1 of the cloud. As it turns out, there was plenty of room for someone to get close enough to be within range 2 to do a basic physical attack and also stay within the Terrigen Cloud, because that's where Gwen moved, forgot her poison icon, there we go. So she moved there and she did her basic freestyle beatdown or whatever the basic strike is for her, with the bonus dice from All Webbed Up. Did 2 damage, just needed to do 1, so Craven is dazed, or no, sorry, Craven is dead actually, he's not dazed at all. He is gone. Either way, he dropped his book, she paid 1 to pick it up. She's only got 1 health left though, so the lizard is probably just going to come back here and cause a problem now. So thanks to the slow, the lizard couldn't really get to where he wanted. He moved there, which is not close enough to do his best attack. He had to settle for a tail whip. He rolled really well for it though and did 3 damage. Now the book couldn't really be placed close enough for him to use anything on it, so just place it there. It's irrelevant though, because again this isn't going to make a difference, and Black Cat can just move over and grab this. And then after that, anything Miles does, he can't go and compete against the 2 healthy characters over there. Sorry, 1 healthy, 1 dazed, and he's already dazed. Actually no, Miles isn't dazed, so he can make it a draw. But he's only got 2 health left. So Carnage or Mysterio would be able to take him out. I guess we should play it out though, just in case, to see if they can't do it with bad rolls. Well, first up out of all that was Black Cat. Double medium move, picked up the book, and is done over there. So Mysterio is activating and then immediately unactivating. He's just ending his turn there because he has enough power to do tricks and traps. So when Miles moves in to try and make a difference, it might just outright kill him, and if it doesn't, Carnage will finish him off. But let's see what happens. So Miles had to double move to get up there to contest. Again, he is healthy, but he only has 2 health left. But tricks and traps triggered for 3, so you roll 4 dice. Any hits, crits, and wilds deal 1 damage. Mysterio only got 1 hit, so he's actually alive on 1 hit, but Carnage gets to have a turn. Yeah, and as expected, Carnage's symbiotic tendril attack did 3 damage. You're not allowed to roll extra dice for crits against his attacks either. So Miles is dazed, and that does take us to the end of the game. So thanks to holding the Terrigen Cloud at the top of the map there, as well as 2 of the books, 1 on Carnage, 1 on the Lizard, that is 4 victory points, which takes him to 17, so even if the Lizard had been dazed, taken out rather, because he was already dazed, the 1 point would not have made a difference. They still would have had exactly 16 to win. The Web Warriors have 1 book and 1 Terrigen Cloud for 3, which took their final score to 9, so 17 plays 9. Not exactly great. If they'd all pushed one side earlier, that might have made a difference. Amazing Spider-Man did amazingly once he had enough power to start doing his better stuff. Prior to that, though, he's not super fantastic for a 5 threat, I would say. But it was nice to see the Spider-Foes do a lot better than last time, although once again, the team-up combo of Carnage and Mysterio, who came together in a box, doesn't really work. I think they need to be separated, although Mysterio did great. Carnage didn't really get the chance because he was kind of hoarding victory points. He was earning 4 a turn, basically. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again in the future for more on a different map setup. And until then, thanks for watching. Ta-da for now.